We have with us IFA President Clayson. Let's start by congratulating him on a successful London Congress. Superb Congress last year at Seoul was wonderful, and this year, Murray, I think the session today, it just came alive with the discussion on digitalization. If you know, the first 2 days you had discussions on limitation, interest deduction, you had discussions on investment funds. And the moment you discussed digitalization, it almost felt like the Thames was set on fire.
Well, and of course, it's always a high spot that so many people look forward to have those panels, OECD and IFA EU, and we still have to come the recent developments seminar.
Yes.
So, I hope people have enjoyed the depth of discussion in the plenaries and the other seminars. OECD drew a particularly huge crowd.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Murray, any take on the technical discussions? On the interest reduction, the BEPS action plan 4 was discussed in some detail. Some would call it, in political parlance, some of the election contests are called sleepers. Where upsets happen, but no one would have foreseen it. It's like a sleeper provision in BEPS, not talked about much, but now coming into limelight.
The BEPS 4.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's been there in some countries' tax law for many, many years. And I find it quite interesting how the BEPS programme, even now with digital, draws upon national tax experience. And with BEPS 4, in an environment where all governments are hungry for revenue, where there's been political and media noise around excessive interest deductions on financing, to roll out in the programme an interest barrier like that, I think is perhaps not so surprising.
You had the industry panelists, though, Murray, saying that, representing a very big M&E group, that if you have interest-bearing rules, such interest deduction limitation rules in every country, then it will contract economic activity. It could lead to reduced investments.
Yes, though I find it difficult, of course, to comment on the economics, but at a time when interest rates are so low, an alternative view that I've heard is what's it all about? Because if you can borrow money for nothing anyway...
Then what is there to deduct?
What is there to deduct? And I heard an interesting comment from a gentleman from Denmark, Norway, who told me you can now raise residential mortgage finance at negative interest. I thought it was an interesting economic proposition.
Negative mortgage. We'll hear that.
So I'm going to go and buy a house in Oslo now, I think.
Murray, taxation of space. I think that panel also attracted a lot of interest. We had an overflow audience, overflow room, and residents in space. I think Elon Musk has captivated us all.
Yeah, when this was first tabled, I think everybody took a little pace back and thought, well, what is there to say? But the moment we began to explore it on a scientific level, with some fantastic work done by the IBFD research associate, who then was Irisa Nuku, today on the OECD panel, there's an awful lot of law out there, which can be brought to bear. So the law of the sea, the Moon Treaty, the notions of tax treatment of transactions with satellites. So there's an awful lot to say, and I think the idea that we would do something in London that was futuristic was very attractive.
A court, we were told yesterday, had disallowed a deduction claim for a space trip sponsored by a company. 90% of that expense was disallowed, saying that the expense is primarily of an overwhelmingly personal nature. That's interesting. Keep watching that space.
Too much fun.
Too much fun, that's right. Murray, digitalization, some serious stuff. I think the residual profit split method as a potential solution to the digitalization conundrum, as we would call it, has set the tongues wagging today.
It did, though we also heard Chip Harter making some fairly clear
drawing the red line
assertions about how far countries would be prepared to go. So what was and was not on the table, and what was not on the table, according to Chip, was a full-blooded sharing of the residual profits of the big businesses. And it was interesting also to hear the notion that maybe, so it was Richard Collier, maybe the residual profit split is not the same as the thing we understand from conventional transfer pricing.
Yeah.
And all of this plays into the introduction into the debate of formulae. So we're going to go in the direction, it seems, of simplification via the use of formulae. And I think this will run into what we mean by residual profit.
Simplification via use of formulae. Does it sound like an oxymoron?
Well, it depends how complicated the formula is, I guess.
That's a lawyer. That's a Freshfields lawyer speaking.
Some quite simple formulae out there.
Murray, last question.
Yes.
5 years of BEPS. How do you size it? Glass half full, half empty? How far have we come? How far do we have to travel?
Depend on full or empty. So it depends who you are and on your perspective, doesn't it? And the one thing I would say is that the achievement is completely astonishing. So to go from the early days of BEPS, the introduction of the concept of an MLI, the skeptics who said you will never get consensus, you'll never make this work, it'll be fiddling at the edges, and here we are, 2019, the MLI. Signed by so many countries now, the inclusive framework with 134 countries, and BEPS is rolled out there. I think we heard the sense that there's nowhere you can run but you can't hide. The dirty money, it is going to be found. It's either being confessed or it's going to be found, and the whole process of shutting down the non-substantive tax haven activity, empty boxes, cash boxes, huge progress. And to roll that out across so many countries is an astounding achievement.
And any unfinished task, do you think, from a taxpayer point of view?
Well, I mean,
like Philip Baker would say, taxpayer rights.
Yeah, he would say that. Well, I mean, the headline word has got to be digital, hasn't it? But I loved the line from Wolfgang Schön this morning, which was the BEPS Action 1 debate started around digital value creation, anti-avoidance, and now we had a proposition which had none of those things in it. It's being rolled out potentially across all sectors. There may be some savings for extractives or financials, but we're essentially looking now at market-based taxation in a much broader way.
And how much to allocate to the markets is the big question. What is profit? What is super profit? How do you allocate the excess?
Exactly.
And what are the determinants of allocation to the market jurisdictions? I think Murray, I think all of us are going to look forward to the Cancun Congress. But till then, congratulations from all of us for a very successful London Congress indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thoroughly enjoyed.
It's great to see you.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thanks.